on what may be a daunting task, what else is there to say about Dr. Panchanathan, or as we call him, Panch? Well, first off, he truly is a founder and sustainer of this organization. He served as our vice president, and in his new role as director of the National Science Foundation, has still found time to participate in our annual meetings. Throughout his career, as a teacher, scientific researcher, inventor of transformative technology, and now as the head of the National Science Foundation, he's demonstrated a commitment to mustering all of the resources of the American innovation ecosystem to advance the betterment of society and the health and welfare of the world. He has already done so much and is just getting started. You know what? That position in government has a 6-year term. There aren't many unless you're a senator. It has that. So we have some more time. Is that great or what? I can't imagine what else he is going to be able to do to accomplish during this time as director of NSF. What I do know is that all of us who work in academic research and innovation are truly lucky to have him as a friend and a man who truly understands our needs and does everything he can to foster and support our efforts. So I don't know if he's back there yet. Are you back there?
They won't let me out.
My friend, and your friend, Panch.
Thank you, Paul. It's all great to be here. I know we're running a little bit late. That's not unusual. So good to be here and talk about what is happening at NSF. I think I spoke to this group. Some of you might have been there 2 years ago. So I always think of these as report cards. So where are we relative to what we said 2 years ago? 2 years ago, I just started my journey at NSF, maybe a year into it or a few months into it. I talked about the vision of what we needed NSF to do and how we can carry that vision forward at speed and at scale. So I'm going to get started with giving you that report card. They told me that this is going to get, if you will refresh the screens, that'll be helpful. So the mission statement of NSF, as I said at the time that I spoke to you, is no different. It's been the same for almost 75 years now. And it would be obvious when you read it that, of course, an agency like NSF would have a mission statement like this. But what is unique, and I said this 2 years ago, is that such a statement would hold good for over 75 years and still remain as a guiding principle for what NSF can, should, and must do into the future. That is, how do we promote the progress of science, advance health, prosperity, welfare, of course, to address the national security issue, securing the national defense. But now let me dive into the next thing that I talked about when I spoke to you at that time, is what are the priorities that we are going to take on as we are looking at the next decade or beyond. What are those issues that are very, very important as a nation that we need to make sure that we advance into the future? And there are 3 major priorities at NSF that we are now moving forward with. The first one is, how do you strengthen what is already happening in a sort of, I would say, a stellar way? And the reason I would say it as a stellar way is, if you look at the first 75 years of NSF journey, there is much to celebrate. Over 216 Nobel laureates were funded by NSF, started their work with NSF's early investments. No agency on planet Earth, anywhere, has that kind of a track record of investing early in the careers as graduate students or early career award winners to the point, and then subsequent investments through their career so that they might achieve the ultimate, one of those ultimate achievements, which is the Nobel Prize. At the same time as that is the case, NSF has also been responsible for the launch of thousands and thousands of companies, which you may or may not know, and I go around talking about it. Yesterday I was in Knoxville, Tennessee with the 2 senators, Senator Hagerty and Senator Blackburn and Congressman Bruchett. I was talking to them about what's happening there and what NSF has made possible, but also what's happening nationally. And so companies like Google got their start from NSF. Qualcomm, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. These are little known facts. We think that they somehow all happened, but they all had their start at NSF. And there are thousands and thousands of stories like that. So considering all of this, how do you strengthen what has already been made possible by NSF as we advance into the future, that we are not walking back on anything? We are, on the other hand, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down as you think of advancing things into the future. But then added to that, the priorities ought to be, at this moment, what are the most important things that, as a federal agency, as the only federal agency that is responsible for advancing all aspects of STEM talent, only federal agency. There are two things unique about NSF, which no other agency has in our country. Number one, this is the agency that advances all aspects of science, technology, and engineering. Not just mission-focused only, as important as they are. It's not a takeaway from any other agency. I want to be very clear. It's just that this is differentiated in the sense that it essentially invests in ideas in all aspects, all fields of science, technology, engineering. In fact, people don't know as much that NSF's one of the major investments of NSF is in the social behavioral economic sciences. If you look at the economics Nobel laureates every year, you will find that they all had investments from NSF, many of them. And so when we talk about that uniqueness, the second uniqueness is that NSF makes possible STEM talent all across the nation at all levels. K-12, community colleges, research universities, four-year colleges, you name it, and continuing education into the future. But as you think about this uniqueness of NSF as an agency, you also need to make sure that this agency and what it does into the future is a lot more inclusive of all talent. You all would agree that talent and ideas are democratized and are in every corner of our nation, rural, urban, across the broad socioeconomic demographic, and across the rich diversity of the nation. How do we ensure that every ounce of talent is inspired, motivated, nurtured, and brought to life? That is an exceedingly important priority at this point in the journey of what we need to do as an important agency like NSF should be and must be. At the same time as you're doing this, you also want to make sure that while I talked about NSF having tremendous successes in terms of thousands of entrepreneurial ventures and companies that got their birth through either NSF's ideas or NSF-inspired technologies or direct NSF investments in terms of expanding the entrepreneurial activities, they then subsequently become big and small and medium-sized companies. But this is a moment, as I said, strengthening at speed and scale requires us to think about how we might now have an intentional focus with intensity in terms of how do we make sure that technology innovation is advanced through this objective of partnerships. So when I came to NSF 3 years ago, one of the first things that I wanted to make sure that happened was the birthing of this new directorate, the first new directorate in NSF in 31 years. That such a directorate will not be yet another directorate, but will be a cross-cutting directorate. A cross-cutting directorate that takes the unbelievable innovations and discoveries and see how in partnership with industry, how in partnership with economic development ecosystems, how in partnership with cities, state, how we might draw out those unbelievable discoveries, whether it is in quantum or AI. At least you know these labels now. There are discoveries today that don't have even labels. That will be labels 10 years from now that you look back and say, oh, this is an interesting technology, but that would be made possible because of what is happening today by the investments of NSF that don't even have labels. Let's be very clear. AI of today is 5 decades of sustained investment by NSF and yet other agencies in industry and so on. 5 decades of investment, what we celebrate as AI today. And to put that in perspective, NSF, 80% of computing investments, non-defense, is invested in by AI, invested by NSF. And so AI investments, therefore, have made a huge difference in terms of what we have today. And the continuing investments in newer problems, newer issues that we have with AI, newer opportunities that we have with AI. All of that is made possible by an agents like NSF. Now you take these technologies and how do you draw them out rapidly so that you can build these unbelievable ecosystems of the industries of the future, scaling the industries of today and tomorrow, as well as birthing the new industries. How might we do that in an intentional way? And that's the job of this Technology Innovation Partnerships Directorate. But while you do that, we all know it is never a pipeline. It is always about the symbiosis of what that happens in terms of infusing newer ideas, newer discoveries, because it is modulated by what the challenges are, but what the need is, and so on. So that's why when I came to NSF, I wanted people to be able to look at NSF in the following way. I just made it up. How, Jan? You will appreciate this. I call it the DNA of NSF. The DNA of NSF has two strands. One strand is what I call the curiosity-driven, discovery-based explorations. NSF is known for that. We all know that. Nobody questions that. But what the other strand that interweaves this strand is what I call use-inspired, solutions-focused innovations. And that discoveries, explorations make possible innovations and translations, and so do translations and innovations make possible explorations. This rich symbiosis is what NSF is very unique at, not as well known. And that's why I go around talking about this, including this audience here, so that we might make possible innovation anywhere across our nation, not limited to a few geographic locations, anywhere across the nation, and that opportunity should be everywhere across our nation. And that's the mantra of NSF. The NSF, as we advance into the future, is it's the agency that is going to make possible opportunities everywhere, innovation anywhere, through this unbelievable symbiosis of discovery, explorations, as well as use-inspired, solutions-focused innovations. This is the DNA of NSF. Now let's talk about what is a scorecard here. The scorecard. Let's look at the innovations of today, the impacts that have been created because we are here in the National Academy of Inventors. When we look at innovations like the lithium-ion battery, the first lithium-ion battery in 1991 revolutionized. All of us are now sitting with one of those in our hip right now, the lithium-ion batteries. But it did not come about magically. In 1970s, NSF invested in two amazing scientists, and one of them who just passed away 2 days ago. An amazing, amazing inventor scientist, John Goodenough, lived 100 years and contributed immensely. So hats off to John Goodenough, if you're listening, John. As well as Stanley Whitnam's research on how might we have this energy storing materials. And these investments is what led to this amazing set of discoveries, inventions, and these two individuals, just look at them. 21 NSF awards to John, as well as 30 NSF awards to Stanley Whittingham for research and education, and to John for his research work. These don't happen just like that. This is not as well understood. Even among this crowd, which is supposed to be very conversant with this, I can tell you, they're all looking at it and say, oh, I didn't know this. And the 2019 Nobel Prize in Chemistry that they shared, we have supported them for over 30 years. So whenever you pick up the phone, not only for the lithium-ion battery, but all the other things that is there in the phone, you might want to say, thank you, NSF. Let's look at another technology, multi-touch screens. In the 1990s, NSF invested. There was an NSF Graduate Research Fellowship recipient. The Graduate Research Fellowship is a very prestigious fellowship of NSF. And so one of the NSF Graduate Research Fellows, Wayne Westerman, working with his advisor, John Elias, they invented this eye gesture pad at the University of Delaware. And that then got acquired by Apple, which was then used to create the iPhone. So when you're talking about using your fingers to expand and contract your screens, that was essentially the FingerWorks company that was founded to develop the multi-touch screens. Again, another investment where you can clearly see, I call them the tire tracks. The tire tracks. You take any technology, any device today, you will go back, and one of the devices that you have, which is your iPhone, thousands and thousands of ideas, technologies, discoveries, you can trace them back as tire tracks to NSF's investments. That's what NSF makes possible. But we want to be very deliberate about that. Likewise, in wireless technology, I'm just taking a few examples. I just talked about Qualcomm. When Viterbi came to NSF in 1980s and said, I have this great algorithm for CDMA, and then said, I would like to start a small venture. NSF invested in that through the Small Business Innovation Research SBIR program. Many of you may not know, the SBIR program was founded by NSF. Now it's common in all the agencies. It was founded by NSF. And this investment by NSF resulted in now, subsequently, Qualcomm, which is hundreds of billions of dollars of a company. So every technology that you see today, you can see the tire tracks. You can see how it has been made possible through investments by NSF. When you talk about nanotube technologies, NSF investments in the 2010s. In fact, we just celebrated Paratunde Kola with one of the highest awards that NSF makes, only one of them, as a prize. Annually, it's called the Waterman Award for a young researcher under the age of 40. And he received the Waterman Award, and he also received 7 NSF investments in recognition of his work in thermal interfaces. He then spun out a company, and that company was also invested in by the SBIR grant of NSF called Carbise. Basically, carbon nanotube technologies used in multiple industries where devices of reducing the energy consumption and working at various temperatures, whether it's automotive or whether it's space applications, through these fantastic inventions by this amazing inventor. Again, invested in not just by one investment, but multiple investments of NSF, all the way from curiosity-driven research to more translational applied research, all at the same time. So as you can see, I can pretty much talk about this with thousands of examples, but they told me I had only 30 minutes. So I'm trying to speak fast. I know many of you are interested to know about the Chips and Science Act and what is in it, what does it mean, what does it do. So here are the technology focus areas that was identified with the Chips and Science Act. Since coming to NSF, I've been working very closely with the administration, with the Hill, on both sides, the House, the Senate, on both sides of the House and Senate, to ensure the passage of Chips and Science Act. And I'm thrilled to say that the President signed it into law last August, which talks about the importance of science, the importance of NSF, and the investment in NSF. Largely authorizations, not yet appropriations, I would grant that. But we're working hard on that too. Even this morning, I had a group of staff members from the Senate, from the House side who are at NSF. We are talking about how might we, prioritize that. But these are the 10 technology areas as a starter, as only a starter, in terms of the kind of focus areas that we will invest in addition to fundamental curiosity-driven research, of course, in all areas of science, technology, engineering. AI, high-performance computing hardware and software, quantum information science, robotics, automation, advanced manufacturing, disaster prevention and mitigation, advanced communication and wireless technology, cybersecurity, biotechnology, advanced energy and industrial efficiency, as well as advanced material science. Let's take a few of these. What is NSF doing in all these areas? When I came to NSF 3 years ago, we were just about to launch the AI institutes. I said we want AI not to be to a select few locations, as important as it is in our country, but it has to mean something to every part of our nation. So I said this concept of AI in every state has to be something that should guide us. Yes, we will always fund things only if it transcends the gold standard merit review process. Of course, that's not a question. But that to assume, therefore, that ideas can come only from certain institutions or certain quarters of the country who can actually rise up to the level of this gold standard merit review I have no better way to say it as nothing than either ignorance or arrogance. Because we all know that ideas and talent are democratized. How do we make that possible? So the first set of institutes, the AI institutes, each AI institute is $20 million in scale over 5 years. The first set of AI institutes, we launched them in 2020. But if you look at our AI portfolio of investments, I am proud to say, close to $800 million of annual investments in the AI area. All 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico have investments in this very important area. Whether it is a K-12 inspiration, whether it is a community college inspiration, whether it is a research university inspiration, whether it is an entrepreneurial inspiration. We have investments of all types in these regions so that we need to make sure that we are energizing every area of our nation in terms of advancing this important area. Let's look at the AI institutes as an example. In the first iteration of 2020, we had 7 AI institutes, 5 of them, each $20 million, $100 million scale, investments by NSF. But the other 2 were in partnership with the US Department of Agriculture. They fully invested $40 million for the 2 AI institutes. That's another thing that I've been saying, that as important as federal investments are, we are going to hyper-partner. We are going to partner with other agencies. We are going to partner with industry. We are going to partner with foundations. We are going to partner internationally so that we might deliver a lot more than what we will be able to deliver by just only working with NSF's investment. So if you look at these 7 different institutes that were launched in the first cycle in 2020, this is an excellent example. AI farms. How do we ensure that AI is relevant to agriculture, agricultural outcomes, farming and agricultural outcomes, with resilience, with management, and sustainability? A clever acronym like most of you make up when you submit NSF proposals. I did that. How do we solve major agricultural challenges using AI? But what is exciting about this is the partnerships. 8 institutions as part of the AI institutes. This is just one example. Every one of them exemplify that. Industry partnerships. And look at this. A historically black college and university, HBCU, Tuskegee University as a partner. This is a very important thing. Talent and ideas are democratized. I have a quiz at the end of the talk. Talent and ideas are democratized. You pass. So there are 3 industry partners, EarthSense, IBM, and Microsoft in this one. EarthSense actually is a startup, and an unbelievable startup in terms of robotization, of ensuring that when you're farming, you can have a good sense of the soil type, you can have a good sense of the moisture content, all the things that you would like to get as information in order that you might use your resources in the most optimal way. A fantastic startup coming out of University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. The second round, 2021. In the first round, we had 20 states covered by the AI investments. In the second round, you're seeing the map expand. We now had 11 institutes, 5 funded by NSF, as always. The other 6 were through partnerships. You can see the pattern here. Leveraging our investments through partnerships with other agencies, Homeland Security, transportation. Again, Department of Agriculture with 2 more institutes in agriculture. So with these 11 plus 7, 18 institutes, we span 40 states of our nation. And one of those institutes, as an example, focuses on AI Institute for Dynamic Systems. Again, 9 collaborating institutions, including 7 from the Pacific Northwest. Columbia and Harvard, plus 7 institutions from Montana, from Idaho, from Oregon, from Washington State. As you can see, that these are not typically in only the usual suspect places. You can already get a sense of this. That we are ensuring that these participations are exceedingly important as we're building it out. We just announced 7 more in the 3rd cycle just a few weeks ago. Just in the 3 years, 25 AI institutes, with only 15 of them funded with NSF investments, 10 of them through partnership investments, almost 1-to-1. And again, focused on unbelievable problems being tackled in fundamental AI. And what I like about this one is, look at this. The AI Institute for Trustworthy AI in Law and Society at the University of Maryland. How might you address the problems and challenges of bias, of ethics, of security, of privacy? How might you address those problems that are increasingly more important if we want the true deployment of AI successfully in many, many different areas? How might you do that? As you can see, the map expands to all the 50 states with all the AI investments, with AI institutes being a significant coverage of that too. Likewise, if you pick up robotics, automation, and advanced manufacturing, many, many investments that we can talk about. Let me give you an example, because I always like to tell stories about people. These two amazing investigators who are invested in by NSF support in a sustained way for the discovery work since 2008. Dr. Andrea Thomas and Vivian Chu. These two then went on to co-found a company. And we supported them. And even before they co-founded the company, because of our I-Core program, sensitizing them to what it means to start a company through the entrepreneurial training, the boot camp that I went to, and I can tell you the most insulting activity that I went to. It pretty much stripped me down to say that you know nothing. That boot camp. And then build you up. So here it is, these two unbelievable investigators working together, building this robotics as an augmentation to what nurses can do in a healthcare environment, where the nurses can focus on the patient, while the other non-patient tasks are handled by this robot. So Diligent Robotics, a startup which has a lot of characteristics to it that I think is going to change the way in which healthcare is delivered, most effectively, efficiently, and much more lower cost. So we funded them, not only for their fundamental work over the years. We got them to get into the entrepreneurial training program, I-Core. Then following investments in small business innovation research, phase 1, phase 2, and here they are. Now they are invested in by external investors with $50 million and 30 people working in that company already. That's what we want more of all across the nation. And we are seeing more and more of that. And that's what I'm trying to supercharge at NSF when we talk about the Technology Innovation Partnerships Directorate. How do you supercharge this innovation, the potential of innovation that is already there? How do you supercharge that? Let's take biotechnology, for example. I have another story I can talk to you about of a person who created Ginkgo Bioworks, Jason Kelly. I can tell you about that in a minute. But let's take even these amazing technologies, CRISPR, for example, the precursor to CRISPR in terms of discovery of RNAi and gene expression mechanisms being invested in as early as the 90s to 2000s. And subsequently, building on that, we had the Nobel Prize-winning, Nobel laureate, Jennifer Doudna. Let's talk about Jennifer, for example. Jennifer was invested in early in her career. She was a career award winner of NSF as she started her career, and subsequently won the Waterman Award, and then won the Nobel Prize. CRISPR and gene editing, which then has tremendous applications, including how do you build efficient and resilient high-yield crops. The other day I was talking to an audience about agriculture, like how do you build wheat genome in a way that it is resistant to drought, for example. These are unbelievable work that happens through the investments that NSF makes, and sometimes in partnership with agencies like US Department of Agriculture. Likewise, advanced energy and industrial efficiency. I'll come back and tell you the story of the biotechnology after I finish with this. And then in this, another sort of the capstone investment that NSF has been making for several years now is the very coveted engineering research centers. $20 to $25 million scale investments. And just we recently announced $104 million for 4 of them. And look at the 4 different centers and their focus areas. I'm not even going to bother reading them. You can see, you get the picture. The problems that they're solving are how do you get sustainable fertilizer production? How do you build hybrid autonomous manufacturing? How do you have precision microbiome engineering? And how do you build smart streetscapes? These are not just hypothetical ideas. Yes, they are, because these challenge the fundamental research at the very core of it to advance the disciplinary sciences. But it brings interdisciplinary inspirations at the same time. It brings the focus in terms of translating those technologies through applications such as this. All of this working together so that this DNA that I talked about is enriched on both sides of the DNA equation. Likewise, a companion to the NSF Engineering Research Centers are the Science and Technology Centers. How knows something about that? I keep talking about how because he was my colleague at Arizona State University, a fantastic researcher. So Science and Technology Centers were established in 1987. There are currently 18 active centers. And look at the 6 centers that we recently funded. All areas of science and engineering are supported through STCs. Another framing by which you can ensure that fundamental science is advanced and also place it in context at the same time. And a context advances fundamental science, the fundamental science enriches the context, both at the same time in a symbiotic manner. As I said, when I came to NSF, I wanted to make sure that not only opportunities everywhere, we'll come to that in a moment, that innovation anywhere is an intentional, intense activity. We launched the TIP Directorate. It's not about me, I'm just saying this because I want you to understand the culture of NSF now. I said to them, we have to launch this directorate in a year, no excuses. It was launched in a year. Last year, at South by Southwest, we announced on March 16th that the Technology Innovation Partnerships Directorate was launched. And I said, it's not about launching a directorate, it's what do we do with that? And again, at speed and scale, look at, in almost a year, the number of programs that have been launched through TIP. Every one of them is focused on scaling innovation. Every one of them is focused on scaling the innovative mindsets and innovative environments. I can go through each one of them. I'm not going to do that. But you will see the names of partners along the way, whether it is Micron, whether it is Intel, whether it is a consortium of partners. I strongly encourage you to go to the website and get to learn more. I expect every one of you. That's why I came to this lunch. Yes, it was a free lunch. But I came to this lunch because I want every one of you to be ambassadors of NSF. That's how we are going to change our nation's innovation, invention trajectory. Every one of you. Not only through what you do, through your science, technology, innovation contributions, but by actually being spokespersons. So that we can, instead of bemoaning what is happening to science or what is happening here, what is happening there, give it up. We have bipartisan support for science, I can tell you, with first-hand knowledge. We have bipartisan support. So don't worry, don't bother about that. Right now, we need this is a moment to communicate the excitement and the impact of science. That's what we all need to do as scientists, engineers, technologists, and innovators. I'm going to give you a few examples of this map through some programs that we have launched. We've partnered with Noble Reach Emerge Partnership. It's a small partnership, but yet impactful. You'll see why. I'll just go back to that. You'll see why. This is the In-Q-Tal Emerge. In-Q-Tal, if you do not know, was the CIA's arm for technology incubation. So through their partnership, how do you accelerate translation of research in biotechnologies? But remember that we're working with a group of researchers by training them, by giving them the mentorship so they might be able to translate their ideas and prepare them and their research for the marketplace. I talked to you about regional innovation engines. I liken them to the Bell Lab-like constructs through public-private partnerships everywhere across our nation around themes that are more akin to the place-based innovation. When we launched this, the Type 1, I said that every part of our country will participate. And guess what? In 2 months is all the time that we gave. And not 25-page proposals, but one-page concept papers. 670 concept papers were submitted. Guam, Marshall Islands, you name it. Territories, all states, everyone participated. And then what we did uniquely at NSF was we publicized all of them on the web, not kept it as a secret, so that everybody can know what others are doing and they can hyper-partner more. And that resulted in a few hundred proposals. And we just, in 6 months, remember these clock cycles, 3 months, 6 months, that's the quantum that we work with these days. We launched 44 of them just 2 weeks ago, if you're paying attention. And I strongly encourage you to go and explore, because I'm a firm believer in making this publicly available. This is a website. If you touch on any one of those motors that are there, the gears that are there, you will find all the details about the team, the location, the problem that they're solving, what kind of innovative environment are they building. And just as an example, you will find this level of detail. This level of detail. This is from Ohio, in terms of a manufacturing focused. 40 different partners in this one alone. Want to turn every region of our nation into unbelievable innovation hubs, humming with activity, with partnerships from all. And this is the first phase. The second phase, which is already underway, the reverse site visits are happening right now. Again, less than 3 to 6 months. This is going to be a $15 million investment over the first 2 years, with a total investment of $160 million over 10 years. We announced the 34 semifinalists last week. Amazing, amazing teams, amazing work. Again, publicly available. Here is Nevada, the Intermountain Region, integrated ecosystems for critical battery material supply chain, sustainable battery technology as the focus area. How do they work with a number of partnerships transcending just not only Nevada, all the surrounding states, together forming that rich ecosystem through public-private partnerships. And very soon we'll be announcing the finalists. This is about speed and scale, not just terms, but in action. Not just words, but in action. Another program of EPIC, not just to talk about participation of minority-serving institutions or institutions that typically get left behind. The Research 2 category institutions, or minority-serving institutions, or community colleges, or tribal colleges. Talking about tribal colleges. In the RIE Type 1, the one that came from the state of Arizona, the region, was actually led by Navajo Tech, not ASU, not U of A, Navajo Tech. That's the kind of inspiration that I'm excited by. So this $20 million investment in EPIC supports minority-serving institutions, 2-year undergraduate and emerging research institutions. It's only meant for them, how they can participate in the regional innovation ecosystems through their training and network, specifically focused on that. So they do have a chance, a shot at being centers of innovation. How do we ensure that we do that? When I came to NSF, I had come from an institution where I had the opportunity of building the research enterprise, which quintupled its research volume. It's not that we had amazing faculty, amazing ideas, but what was the secret sauce is the research office was able to help find the opportunities, help with grant writing, help with forming partnerships, help with even doing the interviews, reviews, all of that to help make the proposal not just shot to the agency, but with a higher chances of success. How might an institution which is not a Research 1 institution be able to do that? They don't have the resources. They don't have research offices. How do we get them out of the problem of feeling like I'm in a downward spiral, I can never go up the spiral? How do we do that? We decided that we are going to launch a virtual research office through this program called GRANTED. GRANTED is an acronym, Growing Research Access Through Nationally Transformative Equity and Diversity. If NSF is good at something, it is at acronyms. This GRANTED program is about how any institution, any investigator, anywhere in our country will have access to how do I develop my research idea? How do I get the research administration support? How do I ensure that I can understand what technology commercialization is? How do I know how to handle research integrity compliance? How do I handle all these complex problems that my institution does not have the resources to be able to build? And therefore, my ideas never see the light at the end of the day. I can never transcend the gold standard merit review process. How do I transcend that? So this program is launched, already supported $50 million in this cycle. So this is about moving fast. This is about moving with focus. This is about moving with intensity. This is about moving with intentionality and making sure that we create the impact that we need to create. And that's why I'm here, is to ensure that you all first understand what we are doing. You can call it the new NSF if you want. but it is an evolution of NSF into the future. And that the partnership with entities like FNAI and other academies is exceedingly vital. If you're going to deliver for our nation, deliver for our citizens, and I know all of you in your heart believe that we all need to make sure that opportunities are made possible. But you're all asking how, and I'm telling you how you can do this. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that you did not end up with a headache. My students used to complain when they were in my classes. They all bought an aspirin bottle. They couldn't take the volume, and they felt that as the lecture progressed, I got more excited and became more louder. So if you saw some of that, I'm sorry. You have to deal with it. Thank you.